Good afternoon and welcome to UEA Journalism News at 4. I'm Emily Goodwin.
And I'm Callum Liddington. On today's programme, Gary Lineker confirms his return to Match of the Day following a row with the BBC over impartiality rules.
Disruption is expected across the country as junior doctors go on strike over a pay dispute.
And bell towers are struggling to find new recruits as the coronation of King Charles approaches. Gary Lineker will be reinstated as presenter for Match of the Day and other BBC sport programmes. The decision comes after a week-long row with the BBC over comments he made regarding the government's new asylum policy. We join our sports correspondent Ned Henderson live now. So Ned, what have we learnt over the past week?
Well, it's been hard to miss, really. The row began over a comment made by Gary Lineker on Twitter last week. The presenter compared the language used by the government in their new asylum seeker policy as not dissimilar to that used by Germany in the 30s. The policy in question will see illegal asylum seekers detained, removed and permanently barred from the UK upon entry. The bill is in response to the ongoing migrant crisis that has impacted cities across the UK, including here in Norwich. I'm sure you'll remember in November, 11 migrants were mistakenly stranded in London and were brought to Norwich. As well as that, the Brook Hotel in Bowthorpe is currently closed to the public and has been since September last year to house asylum seekers. Now, Mr. Lineker's tweet prompted the BBC to remove him as a BBC sport presenter, which in turn caused a number of prominent sports presenters and pundits to boycott their programmes. These include Match of the Day pundits Alan Shearer and Ian Wright, as well as Football Focus's Alex Scott and Jason Mohammed.
Can you update us on today's developments?
Well, there has been progress between the two parties today, as Lineker is set to be restored to the Match of the Day team and other BBC sport programmes, and he will be allowed to tweet with no restrictions. BBC Director General Tim Davies has released a statement today apologising to staff and audiences for the disruption caused. However, he has defended his decision to take Mr. Lineker off air, and he said it was the right thing to do. Lineker has released a series of tweets this morning as well on the matter, most notably thanking Tim Davie for his understanding during this difficult period.
And what does this tell us about the BBC's rules on impartiality?
Yes, the BBC have clear rules stating that presenters and reporters must remain impartial when reporting. However, their guidance on impartiality on social media is somewhat of a grey area. Now, Mr. Davie has said he is aware that the BBC's social media guidance must be clear, proportionate and appropriate. The Director General has also announced that an independent review of the BBC's guidance will take place, focusing on how it applies freelancers outside news and current affairs. Now, earlier I spoke with sports presenter and commentator Rob Curling, and he emphasised how the row has highlighted the need for the BBC to update their guidelines on impartiality in line with the rise of social media.
This has made the BBC realise that its guidelines are not in keeping and up to date with the way social media has moved forward. I don't think Gary Lineker was ever in breach of his contract, but maybe he just went a little bit beyond the guidelines. And guidelines is a bit of a flabby term in a way, because it's not, it's not asserting anything in law. It's saying that this is how we would like you to behave, and maybe it was the language that Gary used. It was quite inflammatory, perhaps. I think that may have been what really got to the BBC in this case.
Lineker has been reinstated as a BBC presenter. We will be seeing him back on our screens this Saturday for Match of the Day. The cause of the row, however, this migrant crisis, is still very much ongoing.
Thank you, Ned. Have you had a medical appointment cancelled recently?